Because you remember our project, we only had 2 light switches from before. The 2 light switches, you had this cover plate that fit on there. Obviously, we're not going to use that for this project anymore. We're going to get rid of that. And with the fan came a single. Okay, we're not going to use that. We went to the hardware store and they have a 3. They even have more in this if you want. We're going to put that on and start adjusting these, get it in there, and get set to put the remaining screws on. Now this went pretty good because of some foresight and rearranging everything in the box so that we could get everything in. Once you do that, you'll have plenty of room. We had all kinds of room left to put this fan switch in there, so I'm very pleased with how it came out so far. Okay, well, I've adjusted these, so I know this is going to fit in there nicely. Now before I do that, I'm going to tighten these switches down on the back side. Okay, I've got the cover plate on here. I've noticed a very slight imperfection on the wall right here. So I'm going to pull this off, and this has just a little bit more room. I can slide everything over. So I'm going to try to slide all 3 switches over and then put the cover plate on, see if I can't cover that. Okay, I tried to adjust all this to cover up this little mark there, but I couldn't do it. I'm going to take a little bit of caulking, put it in there with a little putty knife and just a little screwdriver and kind of dab it in there. That happened. You always want to be careful when you're putting in cut-in boxes, but I was as careful as possible, and sometimes you're going to get that. But put a little bit of caulking in there and you'll be good to go. Now, when you put in these screws, they're small. You don't want to over-tighten them, and just make them snug. If you go too much, you could crack the cover. And you don't have to have all the screws lining up. Some guys like to line them up, but you do that, you could have a chance to crack your cover, so I don't like doing that. So I'm just going to make these snug, and there you have it. That completes us installing the light switches. Okay, now that you have the cover plate in, you can look at it and see if it looks straight. If it's off ever so slightly, you can adjust the tops. If it needs to go up this way, you can move this screw over, this over, this over. Not these screws, but the ones underneath for the light switch itself. So look at it. Main thing is you want it to look nice and straight. Tighten it down, snug it down. At this point, also remember that we have these light switches turned off at the breaker. Now if you want to utilize, let's say you're not going to be installing the fan for a while. Up in the ceiling where the junction box is for the ceiling fan, you put wire nuts, separate wire nuts, one on the black, one on the yellow. You could do that and ground it, what have you. Keep this off, and then you could turn your breaker back on and use your lights in here if you want. Just remember to turn the breaker back off when you get ready to hook up the fan. You can leave the fan in the off position and hook it up. Just a few things to be aware of before you turn your breaker on.